Hi peeps, and welcome to another video with me, Pritesh Patel. In this video I'm going to be talking about onboarding, something which building product manufacturers in the construction industry have dabbled with. Many probably do it well. A few that I've come across don't even do it, or maybe not even sure of what onboarding actually is and how it can be used. It requires a little bit of technology involved, especially email marketing platforms, or tied with CRM systems as well. So it kind of works best if you've got both technologies working hand in hand, integrated. But I'm just going to give you a bit of a simple overview. Hopefully it'll give you some ideas on how you can use email to develop a onboarding process, or maybe even you may have heard of lead nurturing process. It's taking users from one phase to another, so from cold to hot, or it could be used as an introduction as we kind of move customers through a series of stages before they get to an end destination. So onboarding, right, okay, so you've got John over here, who just happens to be, let's say for example purposes, an architect, who has probably never heard of your brand, and he's just googled your particular product or service that you provide into Google, not aware of your brand. You appear first or second in Google for a relevant search term, and he comes to your website and he lands on your page, or product page or service page, and he likes what he sees. The product that he's after, or the service he's after, all the information is clear, tables are there, that's exactly what he needs. He goes away and downloads some information. What he does is he completes a goal on your website. And a goal, going back to some of the older videos, a goal could be anything from a sample request, or filling out a form for a consultation, booking a CPD, whatever it may be. John has just completed a goal on your website, so he's filled in a form. What happens with that data then? It goes into a CRM system or an email marketing system. It enters then into a workflow, and this workflow requires a little bit of work beforehand, and it kind of needs sketching out. It needs some flow charts, some diagrams of what this workflow is going to look like. So what communication is John going to receive once he's completed a goal? So workflow is essentially a flow chart of a series of messages or a series of communication touch points that John is going to likely to receive over a period of time. So some of these workflows may depend on the goal that's been completed. So let's say, for example, John has just completed a sample request goal. So he's requested a sample, and this sample is not going to arrive onto his desk for another 3 to 5 days. You know, your postage terms might be it's delivered next day, or it might be 3 to 5 days. Within that time frame, from requesting a sample to actually getting it, what communication pieces are you going to actually send? So depending on that goal one, you might send a welcome email. So in this email, you have got messages about the brand, about further details about the services that you offer, maybe some behind the scenes information on your manufacturing capabilities, or delivery capabilities, or technical support that you provide. But that first initial email is a welcome email. You might then say, okay, well, 5 days later, so we're going to say 5 days later, expecting the sample to have already arrived, you may then trigger another email which contains information about hope you've enjoyed received the sample. Okay, here are top 10 FAQs about this particular product. What this email is actually doing is it's just creating another touch point. It may trigger a conversation if the sample's not arrived, or if the samples arrived, it's complementing additional content for that particular product. So this email sent 5 days later contains relevant information to help John make a more informed decision. You may then say, okay, well, after 5 days, maybe a couple of days later, they're going to get a white paper email, which leads back to the website where they then go and download the white paper. But this email contains a link to a white paper which provides some advice and guidance. 5 things you need to consider before you specify or use or install this particular product. So this email drip campaign is going through this workflow over here that you've designed up well in advance, and these emails have been created in advance as well. Or let's take, for example, another scenario where John comes along, he comes to your website, you have got a product selector or you've got a calculator on your website, some sort of tool that helps John do his job a lot easier. He goes through your website, he uses your calculator, he uses your tools, he puts in his email address because he wants the detailed report being sent to him, or the calculation or the thing that he's just done being emailed to him. So he puts in email address. Again, now he's completed goal 2, which is a completion of a calculation. What happens then is, okay, the next set of emails is going to be very much around blog content, regulations, legislation, advice, guidance type email. So essentially this email, the first one is, again, you might have a welcome if you feel that's necessary. 2 days later it'll be links to various popular content that you might have on your blog or your resources section of your website, however that might work. And then you might then say, okay, well, let's use another email that we've got in another workflow which joins up into this process as well. So your first email is very, very crucial, dependent on what goal they've actually completed. Another example is if you've got an area on your website that you have to actually sign up for before you get any content. So for example, many product manufacturers have CAD drawings, BIM content behind a login or a registration wall. You have to register before you actually receive any of that content. It might be that you have to register to use a particular tool like we've just mentioned there. You have to register before you actually use it, in which case goal number 3 is a registration, and that might trigger more of an email that's around how to use our content, how to use our tools. So you have your welcome message as standard, but this one is more focused around how to get started. Here's a link that goes to the website, but it goes to a video section or getting started page. So it might include 3 or 4 videos about how to use our calculator, how to use our tool, some of the things you might want to consider before using our content. And then you've got some links or some relevant content that or messages that support a wider range of services that you provide. So hey, use our calculator, but let me tell you first how to use it, the benefits of using it, but as well as, hey, did you also know that we've got a dedicated support service? We've got we also offer samples if you need them. We also offer CPDs to help you develop in your product knowledge. And then that might trigger another workflow based on that particular goal type. So how do you actually make all of this happen? The first step, as I mentioned, is to design a workflow and keep it very, very simple. Sometimes it's so easy to get overcomplicated with workflows. We keep it really, really simple. You want maybe 2 or 3 emails over a period of 3 or 4 weeks, by which then they'll have already warmed to your brand. They will have already been made aware of all the different pieces of content that you provide on your website. But it takes time, and you also want to keep an eye on the results as well. So people clicking through from all of these emails that have been sent out. Which workflow works better than another? Which emails is John and all the other Johns out there more responsive to? Are they kind of dropping off when it gets to day 7, day 21? And also, other white paper emails actually proving to be more successful in terms of engagement, opens and clicks, than maybe some of your blog roundup type emails, in which case you may say, okay, well, let's send this a little bit earlier because it's a more valued email than some of the others. You can run this sort of workflow. I've got many clients that use Microsoft Dynamics CRM that plugs into an email platform called Click Dimensions. You can also use a low-cost option such as MailChimp. Requires a little bit more manual work because you've got to then take data from your website, try and integrate it into MailChimp, plugs in the data. You've then got to manage some of those unsubscribes a little bit manually. You can use .mailer, ExactTarget. There's so many different email marketing platforms out there that allow you to do automated emails, particularly looking at onboarding campaigns. But the key thing is also, it works better when you've got a CRM system involved, because then you can match the goal that's been generated to an outcome, something that says, okay, well, let's look at everybody that signed up in May 2016, then in October, let's review it. How many people who have signed up or downloaded or requested something, gone through a workflow and resulted in a quotation, resulted in a consultation, resulted in something that marketing has made an impact for. You may then want to test this with switch it off. Let's see what happens when we've switched our workflow on, and then you go through 3 months where you switch your workflows off and see what happens to those contacts. Do you lose that engagement? Do people who sign up to something or you register for whatever you've got on your website, are the touch points a little bit less quality? Do you convert less of those into those contacts into projects or consultations or face-to-face meetings? So onboarding essentially is a process whereby it allows you to drip feed lots of different content without being too in your face right at the start of the engagement with your company. So the hardest bit, I would say, out of all of this is designing that workflow. Remember, keep it really, really simple. You can always build on these over time. Don't go in there all guns blazing. We're going to send 30 emails over a period of 3 months, and all you're doing is you're lining yourself up for trouble, because then you've got to ensure that you're regularly producing new content to ensure that these emails are kept refreshed. You'll need to also think about, okay, how do we then integrate some more recent blog posts into some of these emails? You won't want to do that kind of manually every single time. There may be an automated way of doing it, and I know MailChimp has a template where it's RSS driven. So you basically take the RSS feed off your blog, you plug it into the template, and it automatically picks up the new content off your blog and starts populating the email template. There are other services out there. I use a tool called Curated for my email newsletters, which go out on a Thursday. Essentially what this does is it takes the content that I've bookmarked off Twitter, sends it directly into Curated, where I then just pick and choose and drag and drop the articles that I want to go into my newsletter. A little bit more manual, less automation, but it allows me to then just pick and choose and have that little bit of verification, approval process before something goes into the email. So onboarding, any questions, do give me a shout on Twitter at PrateshPatel9, or head over to the Contact Us page, fill out the form, let me know, email me. Whatever you do, get in touch. I look forward to hearing any of your questions regarding onboarding or any of the previous videos, or if there's anything that you want me to cover in the future videos, do let me know. But I hope you've enjoyed this one. Stay tuned.